What is up, y'all? I am so excited to be back with you for season 3 of We Take the Hill. And today we have a special guest, Miss Precious Williams. She is a mommy wellness coach, international speaker, and CEO of Moms on a Mission Wellness. She is also the founder of Simply Passionate Life LLC, a platform dedicated to helping moms overcome burnout and build generational health. I would like to welcome you and introduce you to none other than Miss Precious Williams. Welcome, sis.
Hi, y'all. Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I'm honored to be here as someone who has followed the journey. I'm grateful to be in the room. And you're the real deal. Take the Hill is the real deal. So I'm excited as someone who has had to lighten my own load and overcome so much in my life and redefine myself over and over again. And helping other women do the same. Is just honored to be here, and I cannot wait for us to get into this conversation, y'all, because she really already she got all the oil out of the olive in the pre-show. So
I like to okay. I am a prepper. If I am nothing else, I like to prep. I used to have like a commanding officer that used to say, "Planning to fail is failing to plan is planning to fail."
yeah,
And so I really do believe that. I believe that if you feel that you're going to be successful, you'll prepare like you're going to be successful.
amen.
So, you know. Okay, so you're not just here to listen to me speak, you're here to listen to Precious tell her story. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the hill together for the next 30 or 40, however long it takes us to get up that hill. And so we're going to take the hill. So first off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Awesome. So she mentioned Precious Williams, but I always got to add that K in there. So Precious K. Williams is a Ghanaian American goofy, lover of life. I am a textbook extrovert. My family is from Ghana, West Africa. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. First person in my family born in the U.S. So I have a very eclectic background. I went to Howard University. Then I feel like that experience geared me up for my life in Atlanta ever since. So I like to say Howard trained me, but ATL pays me. And so my kids were born in Atlanta, and I am a Georgia Peach now. I can't help it. But I love women. I love helping women. I have a very matriarchal family. My mom is my everything, and my sisters and I have two brothers. They deal with us. But truly, I've seen women struggle my whole life, and not struggle necessarily because they didn't have enough, struggle because they wanted more, struggle because they wanted to fight for the American dream and build generational wealth at what expense? And so at a very early age, I realized that there was more to building generational wealth and more to like being fulfilled than just working yourself to death, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's really what has inspired me in my life and my mission in my own journey of getting healthy and my journey to help others get healthy.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned you have sisters and brothers. How many siblings are there? And you're obviously the youngest because you're the first one born here, but how many siblings do you have?
So it's five of us. I have my oldest sister who is like 18 years older than me. She was born in Ghana as well. Then I have my two older brothers. They were also born in Ghana, so they immigrated here. And then
Mhm.
I was born by my mom and dad, and my sister was born like 13 months later. So me and her
Yeah.
like to call whenever we call each other and we were thinking about the other, we say twin tuition. So yes, I'm
Yeah.
the older sister, but I also have younger sister vibes and middle sibling
Yeah.
vibes sometimes.
That's valid. That's factual. I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
I am the oldest, but the youngest, like I am the first grandkid, like the last.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of get this like, oh, I'm special, but I actually have people that I have to take care
Exactly,
of.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. So, what was it like to grow up? Um, is it Guyanese? How do I say
Ghanaian.
it?
Some
Ghan.
West Africans
Thank
would say
you.
good.
Thank you.
See, West Africans would say Ghanaian, and which is not wrong. Ghanaian.
Okay.
But my mom is from Accra, and she's Ghan, and we say Ghanaian. So
Ganyan.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So what is it like growing up Ganyan in Chicago?
Well, I grew up in the suburbs, just for those people who are going to try to come after me. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, Matson, but we still were on the same train line, and I am still a Cook County baby. But growing
Yeah.
up in my household was very interesting because it was Ghana in the house and America
Yeah.
outside. So there was, your mom called you, you came, right? It wasn't like, yes, like, what do you mean? You come when you get called, like, period. My dad wanted something upstairs, wanted something that was sitting next to him, and you were upstairs, you came down and got it, even though he could reach it, right? So we still have a very West African upbringing, but I love that. I was the good eater, so I ate the jollof rice and the fufu and the pounded yam and everything. I ate my seconds, my thirds, and so very young, I ended up having the nickname Mama Bontos because I was thick. I weighed more in ninth grade than I weigh now. So I was an eater. I enjoyed my cultural eats.
Yeah.
But living in the Chicagoland area and going to things like the Taste of Chicago and still having the small town vibes of where we grew up, it was very well rounded. And I had like a very worldly view of not just living in the suburbs, but knowing that 20 minutes up the road, there's crime, right? Or going to Ghana every few years and seeing my aunties and cousins still having to get it out the mud, right? So I have had a lot of experiences growing up, and it's made me a very well-rounded, I think.
Yeah. And one of the things that we were talking about, which I loved that we talked about, was that like from a very young age, you always thought you were going to do something physical.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was it physical therapy? You always
Right.
thought you wanted to do physical therapy. And what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah. So, like I said, healing and growth has always kind of been part of my worldview, mainly because my mom being an immigrant and working on the north side of Chicago, we lived in the south suburbs of Chicago, had a lot of run-ins with 2x4 trucks. Unfortunately, not walking, but driving. So car accidents, having to go to physical therapy. She
And
was, once again, she had 3 accidents when I was young. Not only that, just working in the restaurant industry and then later in the cosmetology industry, just had a lot of back pain, a lot of issues, working herself ragged. And so she would go to physical therapy and I would attend with her. When she came back, I would help her, give her massages, help her with her exercises, and see her go from in pain or semi-immobile to um, improving. And so literally like 11, 12, I knew I want to be a physical therapist. This is what I want to do. Until I realized I had to touch other people. I like helping my mom,
yeah,
but I did not want to touch other people. And, but all in all, it was a seed planted because it did help me learn so much about the human body, study health science at Howard, do research on heart health and women's health. Like it was the seed planted. I thought it was for one reason. That's the message. I thought it was for one reason, but really it
yeah.
was just for the reason why I use it today, is to help women in their health journey.
So I found that one of the things that I did find really interesting, and when I was like trying to connect the dots, like listening to your story, was that, even at a young age, it might have been your mom, but even at a young age, you were trying to help moms. Like you saw an overworked mom and you were trying to like, hey, how can I intercede here? Hey, how can I like jump in and even as a child, you're like, this is how I'm gonna solve it.
Yeah.
But like for the whole time you're trying to help moms, and I want to know like what was it about like seeing your mom in pain? Like what can you rewind or take us back there? What did that feel like? What did that desire to kind of help feel like to you?
So I'm not huge into astrology, but I am a Taurus. And something about Tauruses is that we are really about the principle of the matter. Like, if this is right, is wrong. If it's wrong, is right. I mean, if it's wrong, is wrong. If it's right, is right. And we're loyal. And so I just saw my mom and be like, this isn't right. My mom and my dad both work. My mom and my dad both have kids. Mom and my dad both own this house. Like, why is she doing everything? And
Yeah.
that made me bump heads with my dad a lot growing up. Thankfully, we have a very good relationship and we made it through. But I just
Yeah.
didn't get it. And being from a West African home, I told you it was West African in that she made every meal, she made every plate, she washed every dish. And I just was like, I'm still an American girl that doesn't get it. And so
Yeah.
it felt like a battle. It really, the bull in me came out. It was a battle for me. I didn't take it lightly, and I was a little I was definitely American in that way. I didn't take it lightly. I was not quiet about it. I told my parents about it. I talked to my mom and said, we need to be helping you. Clearly, as still a teenager, I mean, I could have been doing more as well. But
Yeah.
I pushed back against it, and I really did. I did push back against it, and it did hurt me, but I tried to help in my own way. So I would give her massages at night. I would rub her feet. To this day, I still do that for the people I love. My kids, I give them massages. I rub their feet. My best friends, like we'll be watching a show or something. Like I am still very big on physical touch for the people I love. Nah, strangers, I
Yeah.
don't.
That's your love language. There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah, it's my love language. So I responded to that pain by trying to give love in a physical way, and it definitely has shaped me as a person
Kind
forever.
of like to wrong, like to kind of right a wrong. Like I need to
Absolutely, yeah,
that. Okay, so you grew up in Chicago. You love your jollof rice. You like, love your food and everything like that. Like what does life take you next?
yeah. So I mean, the truth of the matter was that I wanted to stay close to again. I wanted to stay close to my mom. I thought I was going to go to Illinois State. I thought I would just always live near my parents, like my siblings did, until I went to a college tour and I was introduced to beautiful schools, Norfolk State, Hampton, all these beautiful schools. But when I got to the hilltop and we walked up that hill, Howard University, I still get chills, and saw those black men in suits and these black women and teachers, and it just music and sounds and smells. I was like, oh my God, I'm home. Like, yes. Because the thing about Chicago that a lot of people don't know is that it can be very segregated. So though I
Yeah.
had a lot of black people at my school, and I grew up in a pretty like well off mixed race, but it was like black and white. Black, white,
Yeah.
maybe Puerto Rican, but it wasn't like very diverse views of black people. Like I may have been like one of 5 African Americans, like, immigrants. So going to Howard and really then that opened my eyes, right? That opened my eyes to like, wow, I really am meant for more. I always had a big personality. Even being an overweight kid, I didn't mention that in the beginning, but even being an overweight kid, like my personality led. I wasn't bullied. I wasn't bashful. I'm not an awkward black girl, but the cool kind. But when I got to Howard, I just really came into my own. That's when I started taking responsibility for my own health,
Yeah.
exercising and taking the hill, walking the
Yeah.
hilltop regularly in our heels. Because in the 2000s, we wore heels to school. I don't know if they still do that today. But I found a big part of myself in knowing that I didn't have to like shrink while I was at Howard, and that was a great experience. I love it. I love HU.
Shrink. I feel like your personality is not a personality that shrinks itself.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I was ever cognizant of shrinking, but when you grew up in Matson, Illinois, like I got the superlative of trendsetter, right? Because I wore like a leather skirt to homecoming one year. Like I was kind of like, I know it doesn't seem right, but I just was like, but not, I just always, and my parents were always like, oh, precious. Like I did, stand out, but at Howard, it was so big that it like swelled with me. So I don't think I ever felt like I need to shrink, but I really was able to be like, okay, we're here now, and even to this day, whenever I feel that like a place is too small for me, I don't necessarily, and it's too small for me, meaning like it's closed-minded or very regimented. I can exist there and I don't shrink, but it is uncomfortable. It's kind of like a plant in a pot when it's time to move to a bigger pot. And so I've experienced that several times in my life, and currently experiencing that. We're not going to talk about that here,
Yeah.
but sometimes you have to make that change. You have to decide that, you know what, I need to get in a bigger pot. And when you get in that bigger pot, what seems like a big personality really ends up being like, no, this is where you belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Love that. And so you get to Howard, you see all these beautiful black men at the hilltop and you're like, this is where I'm going. How did you end up going on this tour?
So my church, I was in a very amazing, shout out New Faith Baptist Church. I was in a very amazing youth ministry. Like that's a really one of the sparks for my leadership skills was this youth ministry. So we did peer ministry, we led Bible study, all the things. Pretty much, it was our babysitter. We were at that church every day, every other day. And so they had a college tour. So
Yeah.
50 to 100 kids, forgive my memory, it was a while ago, got on the bus and we literally stopped in Virginia, North Carolina, and was Howard. I believe Howard was the last stop. If it wasn't, it was the last stop for me because that was it for me. That was it for me. But even after that, I only applied to Howard. But the summer before I graduated, I went to Ghana and I said, Lord, give me a sign. Like, I need a sign. This is where I want to go. It's just super spiritual. I was a real spiritual in high school. And so we were driving. And if you've ever been to West Africa, like the names of buildings that like think of a strip mall. They have like very religious names. Sometimes it'd be like, thank you, Jesus Barber, or hallelujah nail shop, or whatever. And so I was driving and it was thank you, Jesus, Howard Grill or something like that. I promise you. And I was like, what? It was crazy. Like the grill, I don't know what type of food, if it was a grill or a laundromat or what, but the words, thank you, Jesus, Howard, were next to each other. I was like, that's crazy. So I only applied to Howard. I took the ACT 3 times because I knew my parents could not afford for me to go on without a scholarship. The third time I got the scholarship, the score that I needed for the scholarship, and I got a full tuition scholarship. And I didn't apply anywhere else. And I told my parents that, like, if I don't get in or I don't get a scholarship, I apply super early, like September, then I will apply somewhere else. And so that's kind of like, if you ever meet me today and you're like, oh, she's so determined. That's it. That's where I get it from. I've always been this way.
Wow, 3 times. Like that's you're just like, I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna get the scholarship,
Yep.
like no matter what. I'm going here. I
Yep.
love that.
Yep.
I absolutely love that. So you get to Howard, and do you go, well, obviously we know you don't follow through on the physical therapy piece, but like what's changed your mind? Like what happened?
Yeah, I had a great mentor, Trinity, and she was one of the first people I met on campus. So when it's time at Howard, we have mentors in our major in the health science program. So it's time to pick my internship, right? And I actually all this time I love everything I'm learning. Exercise physiology, nutrition, like I'm a minor in sociology, so I'm taking classes at the top of the hill. Most people who know me from Howard probably don't know I was a health science major because I was always in like politics and sociology, psychology. And so she's like, okay, so let's talk about your internship, girl. We went through every single category. Geriatrics, no, I don't want to see people die. Pediatrics, oh no, I can't see the young kids. Burn unit, oh no, like that's gross. Like I can't, literally every single unit, and I was like, I don't want to do any of this. Like I love what I was studying, but the actual physical therapy portion had zero interest of it. And so now today, when I talk to young people or women who are trying to figure themselves out in their passion, I always ask them 2 questions: what makes you angry? And when you look at your life, what do you see? And so for me, what made me angry was people in pain, people without a way of, escape, women especially who are not finding their way. But when I envisioned my life, I didn't envision it in scrubs. I didn't envision it with physical labor. I didn't envision the notes. So I was on to something, but that wasn't it. So I ended up being recruited for Teach for America. And when I met with a young lady and she talked to me about the mission of the AmeriCorps and all that, I said, okay, that sounds like something good for my resume. I could do it. Applied for it. Selected my top 3 choices of location were Atlanta, Chicago, or Philadelphia. And I got Atlanta.
Yeah. All right. And so how long have you been in Atlanta now?
17 years.
Wow.
Don't even try to do the math, okay? Don't try to do the math.
That's all that means. You're official.
I'm official. I am a Georgia Beach official. I'm also officially grown. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where it's like, oh, let me ask my mom. Oh, let me go get the adult. It's me. I'm the adult. I'm the adult. So anybody, millennials, we are the adults now, and it's very weird.
Yeah, I know. Present. I'm here. I'm clocked in. Adult clocked in. Go to Atlanta and you buy your own home. You don't like go and rent an apartment. I was just like, you just bought your own home.
I did.
So home, you're like set up, you're like a teacher. Like, what was that first like what are those first couple of years like for you when you moved there? Because also you're from a really big family. Did
Yeah.
that feel isolating in any type of way or
Oh, that's a good question. You guys, this is a good podcast. I'm on podcasts all the time. And when I tell you I left the first little pre-show, like, Lord, this girl is asking me the serious questions. The first few years in Atlanta were both like thrilling and very, like you said, very lonely. I was at the first time in my life, myself outside of like a group. So in
okay.
Teach for America, you have a training and you have like a group of people. And so you stay at Georgia Tech and you do your training over the summer. And so in between there, I had some friends from college that I would stay with, like in between closing on my house and staying at Georgia Tech. But it was still like, there's not like going down the hall to your roommate's room or going across the hall to your sister's room. It was just me. And then you're in the field. I didn't study education. So I'm just like, and we're working in the hood. Okay. This is my first time actually
This is
legit.
your first time in the hood and in the South. Welcome to the
Whoa, right? Like, what I knew about the South was
world.
like A-Town
World.
Stomp, you know what I'm saying? Like crunk music. I was not ready, okay? And even at Howard, we stayed on South and Southeast. That's where my junior and senior year. But still, we had a townhouse. Like, we rented a townhouse. It wasn't, you wasn't in the amongst.
Yeah.
But I definitely, Howard's definitely proved, I proved myself through the fire
Yeah.
there, but I did make some mistakes. Like I got in a relationship, I don't want to call it a mistake, but I got in a relationship and was very like codependent, very like, oh, first guy I met in Atlanta. And he was a great guy. I don't claim him as an ex. I don't like when I don't do that for my own self. Like I have no ownership of that. I was in a relationship. He went on, I went on, but that showed me a lot about myself. That strength I told you about.
What did he show you?
Yeah, that strength I knew I had also had some kinks to it, right? It also has some attachment issues of like loving people to the end of themselves. And sometimes you can't do that. That means that like you can love people as much as you, and if you're a loving person, if you're a caring person, empathetic person, yes, you want to give your all, but your all cannot exceed the level at which they love themselves. And you can't want for people, and I have to learn that with my own kids. You cannot want for people more than they want for their own selves. You can give what you, and with your integrity and what that looks like, but at some point, that person has got to want it for themselves. That applies to marriage, that applies to motherhood, that applies to service workers, fellow coaches. If you're a trainer, like anything, you can want something for someone else, but there will be a limit to what you want for them, and they have got to take it. They have to meet you even further than halfway. And so that attached to that bond really helped me see like I had more work. I had to growing up to do. Like I still don't believe people should be in like serious relationships like in their 21, 22, 23, like, because we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. You're dealing with limited information. And so I gained a lot of weight. He was I went back to my West African eating ways. Making oxtails in the middle of the week. Like you can't eat oxtails for special occasion when people are coming over. You can't make oxtails for you and one other person. So I gained a lot of weight. I got to the place from graduation. So like back up on my health journey, I lost 75 pounds after that relationship. But before going to college, I was definitely let's say mid-sized, back in the day, being thick wasn't as in, but I had lost like 30 pounds.
Mid-size, like a vehicle.
I was mid-sized. I mean, I still consider myself mid-sized. Not plus size.
Medium size, okay, but like mid-size is like a caravan, like a car.
That's trending. That's actually, look at that. That's a trending term, mid-size. So I was average, okay?
I was writing mid-size, and I was like a car? No. Okay.
It's a hashtag, okay? But no, I had, like I said, in college, I prioritized my health more, got healthy, got mobile, all that stuff. Well, when I got to Atlanta, also there's all driving in the South. So if you're going to move from anywhere to the South, be prepared to gain some weight because it's all driving. There's no walkability. And then I'm in this
Drive
relationship.
into the store down the street. I'm from the South, so
Yes,
we
we
drive
drive everything, every single place.
5 minutes. It would take me 5 minutes to walk.
We
Nope,
take it in
I'm
a
kidding.
1 minute drive. Yeah,
Yeah.
we drive everywhere. And so
Yeah.
not only that, working in a stressful environment in this relationship where he's such a good guy, but I am a dreamer, and it was just not what it was for me.
So
It
what
was
was the environment like? What was your work environment like at this time? What had you decided to do? So you said you started doing Teach of America, but what were you doing? It's in,
so they placed me in
exactly.
second grade, which is very
Okay.
interesting because I met my husband. We're gonna go ahead and get to that. But second grade and working with a 1 year old, working with 6 year olds and 7 year olds was interesting because I ended up needing that information later. God is very
Yeah.
intentional
Yeah.
if you pay attention. So I was in second grade for 2 years. First year, dumpster fire. We're not going to get into that. It was bad.
Yeah.
They gave me literally the entire class had been repeated. It was just, I ended up having like a co-teacher, mentor teacher because it was so bad. I mean, it was Lean on Me, but worse. Okay. If you ever seen Lean on Me, it was bad. It was bad. Okay. But I showed up every day. Y'all, I showed up
Yeah.
every day and I was like, I'm going to figure this out because I'm stubborn. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. Year 2, I get better. Everybody in my class is not, what's it called? Been retained.
Yeah.
They still give me some of the roughest ones, but
Yeah.
I love those kids. So when you love kids, it's a message. When you love
I would
kids, they know that and they start to perform for you. So a lot of positive reinforcement. I started realizing that I do know how to talk to people. I do know how to,
so I'll care in return.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so their parents started texting me, calling me, oh, Mrs. Kofi, Miss Kofi, such and such is doing this at home. Talk to him for me. Like we had a partnership, and I was young. I was 23 years old. So year 1, year 2 went great. So I decided to stay a third year. So that's not very common. Usually people are like, deuces. So I stayed the third year, and at this point, it's getting real good. So now I'm like, my reading class is like the high achievers. And then I also have a reading class as the kids that can barely read. So I'm helping kids get like a year and a half ahead of grade level. Same theme, healing, transformation, like helping you see stuff for yourself in blind spots that no one else would see. And then also encouraging the parents, like, yeah, this kid didn't do good last year, but it's a new year. Let's go, you know? So at this point, it's like, okay, we're at a fork in the road because I don't want to be a teacher forever. And so a friend of mine asked me, oh, what do you love the most about your job? And I said, recess. I love recess. I love watching the kids interact. It's like the best reality TV show there is. Even though there's a second and third graders, the tea is hot. And so they asked, have you ever considered school counseling? And I said, I have not. But I had an amazing school counselor. And so let me research. So pre-ChatGPT, I researched all of my things and I applied for a counseling school at Georgia State. And the rest is honestly history because that's one of the biggest like acts of random obedience. Like it wasn't a hard decision. It wasn't a cloud in the sky. It literally was like the pieces falling together and you just being still enough to see like, oh, this makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I think if I had not have done that, I would have taken me longer to get to where I am today. Like that really changed it put the pieces together of like health science, people, loving people, wanting to see people grow, like going to counseling school. And so, yeah.
Everything you've been doing is like literally just kind of taking care of people, even in this relationship where you're just kind of like, you know what,
Girl,
it's
say
kind of
that.
my place. It's always just been you trying to extend and like take care of people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that. And so you go to grad school, Georgia Tech. I'm sure you did well. I'm sure you exceeded.
Georgia State. So Georgia Tech was training for Teach for America. Georgia
Georgia.
State. And I loved it.
I did this last
You
time
did that
during our
last
conversation.
time. And
Georgia
that,
Tech.
as an African, I would accept it.
Yeah. Georgia State for masters. Okay. So you go to Georgia State, you get your masters, you come back, you graduate as a counselor. And is this where you're like, okay, this is where you kind of get that epiphany? Like, this is when the ball starts really moving in the direction of you starting to want to help women?
No.
Or you, no, okay. Thank you.
No, believe it or not, still. And I mean, the world, y'all have so much access. I don't know how old you are, but there's so much more access for those of you who are like 26 to like 32. You have so much more access. I'm not going to say you have no excuse because that's not true, but just trust your intuition and go for it. Like, stop, don't overthink it, right? I think that
Okay.
millennials,
I ask for advice when it comes to that.
yeah,
But I do. I also feel that like I sometimes I look at my nieces and my nephews and they ask me questions and I'm just like, you have like a whole ass phone. Like honestly, nephew, like there's no way in the world I wouldn't be making money in
yeah,
college right now. Like you know what I mean? I just was like,
yeah,
everything that I need like right there on my phone. I would be making bukus of money off
right.
these people. But anyway, how do you listen and follow your intuition? I feel like, and one of the things that you specified in this conversation, and I know that a lot of our listeners that are from immigrant households and families, um, when everything is telling you to do things a certain way, I'm sure there's a lot of like, I need to please, I need to be a high achiever, I need to do all of these things. And what if listening to your intuition goes against, like, or seems like it's going against what the ask is for you from your family or from your
Yeah.
community?
It's a good one. I read a quote recently, heard a quote recently that said, it's impossible to break generational curses while still trying to please the generation that's cursed.
Mhm.
And so let's bring it to healing, right? It's impossible to facilitate generational healing while still trying to please the generation that's broken or is in need of healing. Sometimes you going out and doing the thing is what is the catalyst for them healing and their breakthrough. My parents, and we probably will get to that, I don't know, but I'm just gonna say it now in case. My parents are retired in Ghana right now. My mom is living her best life, and I think that her seeing me make bold moves has helped her. And she said that to me, has helped her be like, you know what? I would love to be in the U.S. caring for my grandkids, but it's my turn now to do things I've been wanting to do my whole life, right? And I mean, I was kicking and screaming. I didn't love it at first, but I had literally, she's following what I would tell any mom to do. Like, she sacrificed her entire life, literally, to come to this country to work for low wages for half of her life, then finally start her business as a cosmetologist, work on her feet for decades, see us through college. And now she gets to be retired, living on the countryside, enjoying her life and doing philanthropy. Like, because I didn't become a doctor, right?
Yeah.
I didn't become a doctor of physical therapy. I ended up getting a counseling degree. And if I could talk to my former self, I would have made even more bold moves then. I wouldn't have listened to people who said, oh, you have a counseling degree, you can't be a life coach. Like, life coaching is just a certificate. You have a counseling degree, you need to be a counselor. Well, I didn't want to do that. And if I would have just went and followed my own intuition at that point, um, I I guess I wouldn't have the story to tell today. So I have a counseling degree and I love what I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the one piece of advice for someone who is trying to follow their own intuition, ask yourself this: like, what's the downside? What do I have to lose? Because the truth of the matter is, if it works, you're gonna be way happier than if you settle, and that works. Whatever the safe option is, whatever the safe option is, will always be there. That's a message for me. The safe option is always going to be there. You can always, if your parents want you to be a nurse and you want to be a personal trainer, you can always go back to being a nurse.
Yeah.
But the step of obedience into yourself, right? Like the step of trusting and being true to yourself, it's worth it, because even if it doesn't work, it's like, I'm so proud that I went for it, right? But if you don't go for it and you settle, you're always going to be thinking that it would have worked. You'll never know. And so I've had to do that. And I say this with my whole chest, that every child births something new in a mother. And the things I was afraid to do before having kids, or the steps that felt too bold, even though I made some bold moves, I began to feel like they were all the more required every time I had it, from when I met my husband, who's a single dad, and saw that little girl basically follow me around the house, like, ooh, and the mom, to when we had our first daughter, to when we had our second daughter. Literally, that's when I made those bigger changes. That's when I said, you know what, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that came with age, or do you think that came with your daughters?
Mm, that's a good question, because someone asked me that, like, do you think it's something new is born, or something that was in you that's let out?
Yeah,
I,
where you're just like, what? It can't live in here anymore because
yeah,
I I want to say I say that because like as birthday milestones come closer for me, I am more risky. You would think that I would be less risky, but I am less risk averse. I'm like, if I don't do it now,
yeah,
the time is a ticking,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
if I don't let it live now, if I don't give birth to this idea now, then it's gonna die with me. And like I might like give it what I got. You know what I
yeah,
mean? There's so many that I have given it what I got, and I've done those and I didn't even like those.
yeah.
So why not try doing the things that I like? So I'm just wondering, like, is it attachment with your like as you get older, you feel less and you've accomplished things. You've hey, I've given birth to this, I've birthed this into the world, I've birthed this into the world. Why not birth this new idea or this, this
Yeah.
thing that I'm holding on to into the world?
I think I can't speak for others because it might be an age thing for others, but for me, I think something about I have both of my biological children naturally. So
Yeah.
when you push out a child after however
Yeah.
many hours with no epidural, something about it that makes you be like, I can do this. Like,
I can do
I can
anything.
do anything.
I can break down that wall if you gave me
Exactly.
enough
Like,
time.
that's every prayer, So there's that. Also, I'm a busybody. And so,
Yeah.
having both my children, not only did I birth them naturally, but I breastfed for a year in
Yeah.
like 13 months. So that 13 months they calculated the hours is something crazy. But literally, your baby basically breastfeeding for 5 hours a day. And
Oof.
you're not doing nothing else. You're sitting still. So for 5 hours every 24 hours, and that's probably a little underestimating the time, honestly. It's so much time to think.
I respect moms. I really respect y'all so much, like so very much. Like I think about because I just think about the load that as a woman, as a black woman, like I'm gonna speak to myself, and then a lot of the times the load is so much heavier. The expectation is so much higher. You have so much less wiggle room for mistake. And at the same time, a person that if you're not naturally a person that needs to please or whatever, and the expectation is for you to, I feel like the expectation as a black woman is you do what we, like you
Mhm.
do what we ask you to do and you exceed it. And that's your bare minimum.
Yeah,
That's all I'm going to ever expect from you is the bare minimum of you going above and beyond.
right.
I think that's like the bare minimum asked for us as black women. So I know this is going to be a segue, but that's why I applauded Rihanna and her Super Bowl performance because
Yeah,
Rihanna was like, I y'all all of that. I'm gonna give y'all this
yeah.
right here, and y'all
You see
gonna
the shoulder? You better
do it.
love the shoulder.
I love this shoulder because that's all you getting from me today. So
Exactly.
I respected that so much because I was just like, we're always called to like, if we don't give like all the way up here, it's not enough. And so I think about that and how we have to show up in that way. And then I think about the additional burden of you also having to also be a mom
Hmm.
or you having to, to carry, to do all of these things in addition to that. And for you to be a wife and to be a business owner. And so I just really I really applaud and I am in awe. I just want you to know that I am like awestruck by you because I know that it's hard to be just one of us, but then you have this extra spotlight on you. And so I just want to say, I'm just you deserve all the flowers and more. So
Thank you.
um,
Tidbit. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. And just because the reason you are leaving a place begins to feel a little bit better, doesn't mean you're not still called to lead. So I'm in the classroom. Now they moved me to 5th grade. I'm teaching English language arts. 100% of my kids passed the English language arts writing test. Like first time in the school's history. No, I don't say first time in school history, but it's not very common in my school in the West End of Atlanta. And my principal was like, "Are you sure you want to leave? You're so good with the kids." And I said, "Yes, I want to live. I want to leave while I still like kids."
Yeah.
And so I can't turn into the ones that don't really like to be here. So I want to leave while I still like kids. And so I left and I became a counselor. I was a behavioral therapist for a year. That wasn't for me, right? But I tried it. It wasn't for me. It was a lot of trauma. And when you talk about wanting to heal people and it was too much trauma for my empath self. And we're not
I
getting
really
into that.
I really, honestly, what I love is that self-awareness for you, because honestly, a lot of us learn that so late. I learned that so late in my
Yeah.
life. Like I learned that like what you said, you can't love a person beyond their limits. And I didn't learn that to very late in life. Like I literally just had a phone call this weekend with a family member and I was just like, I'm gonna say no.
Please.
And I'm
No, say
gonna figure. And then they called me the next day, they had figured it out, but I said no. And it took me, and I have just started saying no, like within the last couple of years, just like, that's going to be a no. I think I always position it, are they going to be in harm if I say no? Are they going to be, if they're going to die if I say no? Or they're just going to be a little uncomfortable
right.
if I say no. And if it's these two are no, I'm no, I'm
Yeah.
out. No. Just a simple nope, not gonna do
Complete
that.
sentence. Complete sentence. Period.
And they like this is the craziest thing. I always felt like I had to jump, and I'm like, every single time they have figured it out. It's crazy. But it took me so long to learn that lesson. And here you are saying, hey, I am good at this. Hey, I can help these families. Hey, I can help these kids. But it's going to be so much on me. It's going to take so much out of me that I don't know that I can remain whole
Mm-hmm.
if I stay and I need to like move on.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about who you are that you've learned that lesson?
I think it's really Jesus. I ain't gonna hold you. Because I think even Jesus would ask people, "Do you want to be healed? Do you want this?" Like he asked, he would ask people. And the man that was sitting by the pool, he asked him, "Do you want to be made whole?" And he said, "Yes, but there's no one to take me." He said, "Get up, take up your mat and walk." I had gotten out of, and you know what it is about boundaries? When you don't have them and you fall on your face because you didn't keep them, then you realize, you know what? Hopefully, you realize I'm never going to do that again. And that's
Yeah.
what you want to get to. You want to get to a place where I now know what happens. Like boundaries don't just protect you; they protect other people. And I don't think we would have worked if I didn't have
Yeah.
it. And so because I let myself go for real, I don't even like that term, but I literally let myself go so bad in that last relationship. I had just started my weight loss journey, before I met my now husband, and so I was like, "Hey, our first date was at the sports grill. I don't know what I ate." And then
Why did you start? Why did you start? Like, tell
oh
me,
yeah,
like,
so
what
I
was
was single. I was a
your?
single
Okay.
Christian girl in Atlanta. I was meeting
Mhm.
guys, and I'm like, I'm celibate.
Yeah.
I'm this, I'm that, and it's like, oh God, I'm never gonna meet anybody. So
Yeah.
I'm young, y'all. I'm 25, which is great. At that time, like, why was I saying that? But I was just like, I'm never gonna meet anybody that fits my standards. But hey, I'm not even who I want to be if I
Yeah.
were to meet the guy today anyway. And so I really had a moment with myself and said, okay, I'm in halfway through my 20s, which still seems like silly now. And I want to have kids one day. I'm 240 pounds. I don't even like taking pictures. I've just got out of this, relationship. My sister's in a relationship now. And, she's moving towards marriage. And here I am, just like, I don't like this feeling. It's probably one of the first times I would say my whole life, and probably have never gotten back there where I just was like, my self-esteem was crushed. I just didn't feel good. And so I said, if I want to have kids in the future, when I get married in the future, something has got to change. And the law of inertia is true. If you don't make a change, that ball is going to continue to roll in that direction. So I'm just like, if I don't change something, I'm a size 20 at this point. I'm not going to, this is going to be my baseline. I'm never going to get below that. And I had body positivity. Like I still shopped the tour and all that. I showed up, but inside I wasn't happy with the fact that I just was not able, my personality wasn't shining through. I felt like I was caged in my own body.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started what we call class pass. I went on Groupon. I started trying all these classes. I did Zumba at home, and I wish Peloton was around back then, honey girl. I would have got on there. But I was just trying everything to find fun ways to get healthy. And literally like 4 months later, I met my husband. So it wasn't even like, so start taking care of you first, because that's when you attract the person who is actually going to love that version of you, not the version of you that is just waiting for that person.
I need to do this for me. And so what I love is that a lot of the times you hear it all the time, but to see it, I guess I was seeing it in practice in your story when you were telling it to me. They say when you start prioritizing yourself, your people will find you.
Amen.
You had said, look, this is who I want to be. This is the person I'm going toward. And if you're not trying to go date her, you're not trying to be with her, you're trying to be with this person, you're going to be left behind because I'm leaving her.
Right.
I'm going this way. I'm chasing this person, this woman that I'm trying to be. And so if you're not looking to date that woman, then you were willing to risk it all and be like, look, you cute and all. But
yeah. It had to be done though, because we wouldn't have made it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like as many times as every time I have a child, I get back serious. When you're dealing with someone who's battled their weight their whole life, and battled their wholeness their whole life and wanting to be a better version of themselves, like I had to like me in order for him to like me, right? And I think that you have to make those decisions. And I do meet women, I do coach moms where their spouse met them in an unwhole state and now they're getting whole, and we work with them to figure out how do we reintroduce this person to their spouse. And I would say 10 times out of 10. I haven't had, I would like to say 9 times out of 10 because I don't want to overpromise. I haven't met that 1 out of 10, but I'm going to leave it out there because I'm not perfect. But in my experience, every single time, they are excited to meet that new person. You think you're doing good. You think you're surviving. Meanwhile, this person can see you're hurting. And it's like they don't know even how to because they may not know where to insert themselves. And so, for me and my husband, it was clear early on that you're talking to a woman that's trying to make herself better by any means necessary for the rest of her life. And he's used to it now. He's used to it now. Like he's like, well, if she go to this expensive trainer, I guess we got to find space in the budget because like he just used to it. Like that's my life. You know what I'm saying? But for those who are in a relationship with someone and they are like kind of transforming in the midst, give them a chance. You'll be surprised that they might be excited to meet this new person. They might be happy. You think that they're satisfied, but it's not. It's very likely that they're just putting up with you this way because they love you. And give them a chance to get to know the next person because they might like her better. And you will like her better. So you'll show up better, And it takes just some routines. It takes, some self-reflection. It takes support. There are coaches and stuff like that out there now. You don't have to do it by yourself. You don't know your blind spots. So get in the room with someone who can actually help you see, like, maybe you should consider doing this. And it might give you a little less anxiety.
I love it, girl. I absolutely love it. I love everything about it. And so one of the also the things is that this is when, a lot of the things that prompted you ultimately to start your business is that you did lose 75 pounds during this process.
Yes.
Talk about that. What did that feel like?
It felt great. And it really at the time, when you're on a journey and it's really about just feeling better. I had an initial weight loss goal, I think about 30 pounds. And the rest kind of just started. I was just really good at kickboxing. Never really been athletic. I only played soccer in high school for 3 years. After not playing Little League, nothing. Only because I'm West African and I was feeling like my sister played 2 sports. Maybe I should play one. So I didn't do it because I liked it. And so I finally found something I enjoyed. So I started kickboxing. I was really good at it. I enjoyed it. It was something that we all did together as a family. Then I got a personal trainer for the wedding. Started doing the Stairmaster, child. Like, I just really started realizing, like, hey, my physical touch, it actually I started loving myself that way, in a physical way. And because I think that your love languages do apply with the way you show yourself love too. And so I just loved it. And by the time the wedding came, my husband was like, please take this biscuit. Like, please. Please, like, girl, it's a carb. Just take one, okay? Because I was like a size 6, like, and size 6 is a beautiful size, but for 5'9", I was slim, okay? And so it felt good, and it taught me a lot. You know, a big part of that 75-pound weight loss journey was what my business coach and I like dissected in making my framework now. You know, it's not just about physical weight. It's about a mindset. It's about believing in yourself. It's about making a decision to just be whole, to find what you're good at and start doing that, to find the people who would do it with you, and making it more of a social experience instead of being self-correction. It's not, wellness is not about self-correction. It's about self-love and really saying, like, I can be proud of myself. And so having children, losing 40 pounds, first baby, losing 50 pounds after the pandemic, it all is the same process. Mindset. Like, can you see yourself as a healthier version of you? If you can see it, then you can do it.
One of the things that I like, and we haven't even gotten to why you decided to start helping moms, like beyond like when you were just, what's right is right when you were a kid and wanted to like, right or wrong. But one of the things that I really love about listening to your story so far, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, um, was that this whole journey that you've been on, all of the different kind of hills and valleys and like the different stages of your life. At each one of these stages, I feel like it really feels like you graduate a stage when you find who you are in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're constantly trying to say like search and define, search and define. And you get really clear on like what it is that you want. Like it's a very clear like I want this now. I'm gonna try these things, but I want this now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna like you kind of see you go down this rabbit hole of like, I'm gonna explore this now because this is what I want now. And even just finally finding, I guess really determining that like I want to feel good in my body. Finally, like I know it's kind of like I know that I can do all of the smart stuff, all of the book stuff, all of the career, but like now I really want this in my body and my and I want to feel good in my own skin. In all of these times, did you ever think that like I have a good intuition about what it is that I want, who it is that I want to be, or did you just kind of like were you just kind of figuring it out as you go?
So I think that, it's some people ask, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I think that a good question is, how do you want to feel? And how do you want to make other people feel? So I don't think I knew exactly what I wanted who I wanted to be, but I knew what felt good and what didn't, And something's off, I'm quick to stop for a second and just start asking myself, like, is it your kids? Is it your husband? Is it the money? Is it what is it? And start asking God, like, what is it? Like, what am I, because I'm like, am I being disobedient? Okay, no, I'm not being disobedient. So what am I not doing? Or what is, and then sometimes it's like, okay, the life is just lifing and there's fires and the world's falling apart. Then that's just part of it too. So I would say, I don't want to make it seem like I'm that,
But you're just
clairvoyant. But
yeah.
but I do believe in being still with yourself to see. Yeah.
I love that. You sit still when you feel flustered, you sit still and you ask questions.
Yeah.
You interrogate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. You investigate it. But where did this life coaching come from? Where did this like desire to help moms come from?
Yeah. So I got married. She was my bonus baby. Motherhood was very hood. Don't understand it. It's not the same as teaching a second grader. Like, having a second grader that lives with you is not the same as teaching a second grader. So if you're going into a relationship with someone, it's not the same. I have nieces and nephews. It's just not the same. So that was just like, I was saying nothing about motherhood because I was just like, who's the mom? Me? Like, I don't know. So then we had our first daughter, and I decided that working in schools, working as a counselor, that's what I was doing at the time, was good and all, but I had something I wanted to say that was a part of, that was separate from what counseling theories and counseling and education, all that. And so I started my brand, Simply Passionate Life. And so the entire mission was faith, family, fitness. And that was good and all, but it still felt surface. I still was scratching the surface, and I still didn't say that I spoke to moms. I just spoke to people about faith, family, and fitness.
Why did you speak to people? What prompted you to want to speak to people about faith, family, and fitness?
It was 2016. We just had a very tumultuous election. The world was, a lot of people in my sphere of politics were very sad by that. So y'all do your own math. And and I just felt like there needed to be good news out there. That it was so much bad news. And so I was like, this is my message. I want to share it. And fitness had become such a big deal in my life. And so, and I knew then also that outside, without incorporating your faith in your fitness, you're most likely going to go yo-yo, opposed to actually using God as your source instead of everything else as your source. But still was not claiming that it was my target audience was moms. I was speaking to everyone.
Why?
That was the second most, that was my second most insecure space. So when I talk to y'all about like when I got to my nemesis or my nexus of weight loss in my mid-20s, well, motherhood, even to this day, is the thing that keeps me close to Jesus. Like that is, I can speak in front of 300 people. And the three girls in my house, I'd be like, Lord, please help me. Give me the words to say. Like, motherhood is just hard. It's so hard. And no one, and what I thought, here it is. See, I told y'all she's good. What I thought, my thoughts about motherhood were not out there in 2016, 2017. Also, I was in ministry in my church. So my thoughts about motherhood are biblical, but they're not popular. And so saying there's no hood like motherhood, saying I don't like my kids every day, saying I don't like motherhood every day. What? Like, motherhood's a blessing. You chose to have those kids. There's no how many people lose their babies every single day. It's like, and I didn't want to get canceled. So I just was like, I don't want to talk about motherhood because the way I feel about motherhood, not only is it not popular, but I also don't want to discourage someone who loves baking cookies. And that's what they woke up one day and they grew up and said, I want to grow up and I want to homeschool my kids and do crafts. That's not me. I don't want to do none of that. Like, hire the chef and buy the crafts. Like, I'm not trying to do any of that, right? So my first two babies, my bonus baby and my first baby, I was still playing the role of like this good Christian mom, this good Christian wife. So faith, family, fitness, well, until I got burned out.
Yeah.
Until I got burned out with that. And I said, I picked up the girls from school. At the time, they might have been like 4 and 11 or something. I can't think of the age gap and how it worked. But at the time, 3 and 3 before I get to burnout.
Let's talk about this because I think I wrote this down and I have to go to my notes because when you had a 9-year-old stepdaughter, you had a 1-year-old daughter, you were a wife, you were in the ministry at church, you were a school counselor at school, you had a YouTube channel, you were doing your own edits, you were doing speaking engagements, vlogging, you were at a new house, and you worked out 3 to 5 times a week.
When you put it like that, that's still the story of my life today, but I have different systems in place now.
But at this point in time, I just saw like, I'm just like, who was rubbing, like, I love your, like, I'm not putting this at your husband's doorstep. What I'm saying is that like, when I just see your mom, right, and you jumping in to rub her feet, you know what I mean? Who was rubbing your feet, spiritually, so to speak, you know what I mean? Like that, I felt like when I read that, and I was just like, well, I was overcome. I was burnt out looking at that. I looked at that, and y'all, because y'all know I'm a New Yorker, and the New Yorker in me said, "Girl, who's the housekeeper? Like, who's the?" I started asking questions like, "Who's doing what?" Because I sent my dog to daycare. You hear me? I was literally looking like I was like, "Wow!" I went, "Wow."
Yeah.
My gosh. And I know you were like, that's just the immigrant, you're just like, hey, I come from like, this type of, I'm always overachieving, I'm always doing this, but this is just a lot.
Yeah. You're right. And it hit me though. It did catch up with me. It caught up with me. This was pre-self-care revolution for Black women.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really it was a time. It was a time. It really was. And we talked about this before, but it took me being burned out by all of that to like sit down with my husband and talk to him about the way we had things going in the household. And he did at the time, like we shared the cooking a lot, and he was he's a tidy guy as well. But it was clear to me that I was still perpetuating the generational patterns of my mom, no matter, even though I despised them. I was still doing what she did, even though I despised them. And he was watching me do them because his mom did the things. And he would say to me, you know, I was a single dad. I can do that. Like he literally raised his daughter. So it's like, it took that moment for him to be like, I mean, he wasn't passive at all, but it was also like, there's only so much you can tell somebody, I got it, until they let you have it, you know? And thankfully, again, he was just like, well, what do we need to do? You know what I'm saying? And literally since that point, he does bedtime, like, you know, he does bedtime and much more. But there are certain things in our household that we have just reassigned altogether. Like, I don't make lunches. I don't do bedtime. I don't do projects because I've done my time, right? Like, if it's a school project, your daddy's helping you with that. You know what I'm saying? And so there's some things that we had to start seeing, where are my strengths? Because my strengths aren't everything. And where are his strengths? And let's let him be a great parent and let them see him in a beautiful way. But yeah, I definitely got to a burnout stage, and that's when like the motherhood bubble burst in my brain. I know you have a question for that.
Yeah. Because I did interrupt you, and I'm so sorry about this. Because one of the things that I do think that was a powerful conversation that you had with yourself in the car, like when you had dropped them off and
Yeah,
you went inside the house. So do tell us about that, because but I just wanted to say, like at that point in time when you're in that car, you're not in that car alone. All of those tasks, all of those to-do lists are in that car with you.
I think it was
So
important though that you said that for those listening to her, because I was retroactively going to do the same thing I was doing to myself then, right? I was just going to tell you I was burned out. I was in the car and tell the story without telling, hey, at this time I was doing X, Y, and Z. And so many women listen to this message may resonate with that. You think you're just overwhelmed. You just think that you're moody. You think that you're just intense or overstimulated, but you're not taking inventory of all that you have going on that's causing you to be that.
also, like with all of those things, every single one of those things involves different people,
Mm-hmm.
different personalities, like the buffering that you also have to do through your day. Because you have to buffer through your kids, because I know they yelling your name, but they don't, and they don't mean nothing by it, but they don't know that you just really had a bad interaction like
Right.
a few minutes ago before you came into got into the car with them. They don't, and even the people at work, they don't know that you're tired as hell from like having, staying up doing your, kids project, but you need to show up as that, you know.
Right.
So it's like all these things, like that stimuli from the rest of the world that you're also kind of always compartmentalizing, putting in different places. And so you're sitting in the cart. And I thought this was one of the realest conversations I ever heard. I said, that is real. Because I've sat on the phone with friends in that car, that buffering moment before they go into the house. And when you said you wanted to drive away, you were just like, I just want to drive.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even like to
I,
drive. But it was
yeah.
a Friday afternoon. I don't know what day it was, but I dropped them off from school. I got them from school, same regular old day. I sent them in the house. Said, I'll be right there, which is typical, go inside. Maybe let me just take a deep breath in our mom vehicle, our mom office. And I literally felt like the car was still on. I felt like the car doors were just coming in. Now I know there's anxiety attack, but I just was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, I don't know what, I can't do this. Like, I just kept saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't breathe. I can't do this. And just thinking about the next shift of the next things I had to do before bedtime, I literally was seeing stars. Like, I just can't do this. So I called my sister, called my tribe, and she was like, I need you to breathe. I need you to stay with me. I just said, if I can drive away and get to Tennessee, by the time I get to Tennessee and get a hotel room, they won't even have noticed I was gone. That's when they noticed I was gone. I would have a few hours. And I used to say many weeks and months before that, like, I need a moment. I need time to stop. Like, I just don't want anything to happen to anybody I love. But if I could just get a minute, everything will be okay. But the time doesn't stop. And you don't get the minute unless you take it. and so got off the phone with her, and I prayed, and I talked to two girls from church we were talking on like a group text. And they were like, we'll be praying for you. God's got you. We got this. That's motherhood, girl. They both have 3 kids each. And I was just like, mm-mm. No, this is not it. This is not it. That's not the answer. And so and of course, being me, I said, when I get out of this, I'm going to create something for moms because this is not it. And in 2021 is when I decided to get a business coach and start thinking through, like, how do I take this overcoming story that happened in my life and help other women not have to. I mean, I plowed out that burnout. I lightened my load. I had those tough conversations. I ignited my spark, which is my framework I'm about to go over. I ignited my spark. I found things I love to do. I was able to say, I'm not going to be here with y'all every night. Somebody else going to do it. I had a freedom mindset. I stopped feeling mom guilt. And I started saying, like, if my husband doesn't feel guilty for it, then why should I? It's okay for me to take my turn. That's the T. I took my turn, and I began to lift myself by the power of the Lord out of that burnout. And I don't ever want a mom. I will go to my ending day saying this: if you lift a mom, you lift her entire family, and you don't have to do it alone. And so that's where it all came from. My pain brought out so much purpose in me in that moment, and I have not looked back.
It's so beautiful because I'm sitting here now and I'm just like, wow. Because I'm like envisioning like the young you, like really coming to to the aid of your mom, like seeing her do all the things that she's doing to kind of like, live her life and to provide for you. And you're like, I want to, and this is me. Okay. I'm a woo-woo person, but you're like, I want to protect this. I want to protect this woman. I want to nurture this woman. I want to be able to show up for this woman. I want to let this woman know that like, this is not necessary. This is not okay. And then you spend your whole life learning how to master yourself so that way when you get to that point of motherhood, you realize, like, you get to that point where you are perpetuating those same exact things and you're like, no,
exactly,
I want to nurture this woman. I've said my whole life I want to nurture this woman. I want to protect this woman, and I've learned how to nurture that woman and protect that woman because I've gone through this having to like take care of myself. And now that I'm at this station in life, I'm going to do just that. And not only am I going to do that, I'm going to help the next woman, and I'm going to do it for the next one as well. I'm going to give her a blueprint and a guide to do it as well. So you really have taken that hill, and
I love it. I love it. I love that you put it that way. And sometimes it takes other people to hear that. And yes, I've helped dozens of moms do it. I've walked through coaching programs. We have retreats and we do all these things. But the woman that I'm so thankful that has seen this happen is my mom. She says on Facebook, on them boomers love them Facebook, okay? They love Facebook at that WhatsApp, okay? But she just is like, I'm so glad I'm still alive to learn from you. And when I hear that, I'm like,
oh my gosh, girl, that makes me want to cry.
every single time I think about it, it makes me want to cry, And it's just, that's it. That's the generational health. Yes, my daughters don't have to put high blood pressure on their health history form, don't have to put high cholesterol, don't have to put, all the things that I have on my health history form for my parents. But then now my mom knows about lowering her sodium and not cooking with MSG and drinking her water and stretching and going for walks. Like, the generational health has helped my daughters, but it's also helped my parents,
the problem from the root, because the mom is like, you're getting all the nurturing from the mom. You're getting how to treat yourself. You're learning. I know they say like you like how a father treats a daughter, and I think that yes, to an extent, like
Yeah.
how you're going to be treated in your next relationship, you're going to learn how your father by how your father treats your mom, but you're going to learn how to take care of yourself by how your mom takes
Yep.
care of herself.
For sure.
And you're going to see that from her, how she's showing up for herself.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Like, it's taken so long for me to learn that, because like growing up in our household, like my mom my mom was a different breed. My mom was a different breed. My mom was a selfish mom. And like, at first, I just used to think, oh, that's so selfish, Like, I used to be like, and I'm like, girl, that was like, I wish I had taken this really into, account that, like, the reason why my dad showed up the way he showed up is because my mom was not having it. My
Yeah.
mom was like, all right, Claire, I'm going out.
Revolutionary, right?
I'll be outside. Like, I'm gonna be outside. You take care of that. And like, and I'm like, now I get that. But like at the time, I was just like, I used to always be like, you have to, and ooh, this is what I love, because you said this. I just kind of felt like my dad was like the martyr in our family. And like, no one has to be the martyr.
Mhm.
And you said, you don't have to be a martyr for motherhood.
Yeah.
You had put that out there into the world. And I'm like, yeah, you don't have to be a martyr. Why do you think that we feel the necessity, even as, as women, as people, to just like die, like, on that hill of just being a martyr for everything?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I don't want to subscribe to I'm a feminist or I'm not, but patriarchy, I mean, it is what it is. I think that our society has been set up, the success of mankind has a lot of times been at the sacrifice of womankind. And
Yeah.
so you talk about any successful man out in the world, and he talks about how do you do? He's like, oh, if it wasn't for my wife. And then she's always like,
Yeah.
it's like, girl, you tired. Like,
You already know that was where I was
because when
going,
you
and I
were
wrote
talking
it down,
about
and I was
when you were
I
talking
was like,
about girls learning how to take care of themselves by how the mom takes care of them, the truth is,
yeah,
for girl moms and boy moms, for girl aunties and boy aunties, like the way women are treated impacts both genders.
yeah,
If a man or a young boy sees a mom is burned out, mom is doing everything, that's what he's going to expect from his wife, and he's not even going to know any different. It's not like he's trying to be a misogynist. He's just thinking this is how it's done, and
yeah.
every generation has the opportunity to change that. Every
When you
generation.
said you had said like when you guys went through and talked about like reassigning roles and reassigning
Oh
things,
yeah,
you said you were just kind of like, I'm not, I'm not blaming him, and I'm not, because I got in this predicament because he was in the same predicament. He had his own trauma of learning that. And so I'm battling my trauma of learning that, and he's battling his trauma of learning that. And so I'm giving him an opportunity to do something
yeah.
different. And I was like, you better spend that. I said, you should have been in the newsroom, girl, because you spent that. I was literally like, but very true. But in the same time, very much so true. Because like I see how my brother shows up in his relationship. My brother shows up in his relationship very much so like my dad. Like
Yeah.
my dad never was a like absentee father. Like he was very, very much so present. Like most of our things, like I can remember my dad doing my hair. My dad was the one that taught me how to put on stockings. Like I know so many things, so many ways in which like I can look to like key parenthood moments. Working out, I'm into fitness because of my father. Like
Yeah.
my dad, basketball all the time, was always outdoorsy, and that kind of really that rubbed off on us. And so you do learn from how your parents are showing up, like how to be a responsible adult, whether that's in fatherhood or how you're going to be as a husband or a wife.
Yeah.
And so I really find that profound. And I just really found it profound that you have such, again, I think it comes back to like self-awareness. I think that you needed so much awareness in order to walk this path, to climb the hill that you're climbing. And that awareness extends not only to you, but you give that awareness to the rest of your circle as well. And
Yeah.
I just love that. And so I just love that. I just love it. Thank you so much. Oh
You're
my
so
God. Thank you so
welcome.
much for the conversation. I do have questions. Okay.
Okay. I think I have
Question
answers.
actually this question, I was writing little notes. I don't know if you saw me
Yeah, I
taking
did.
little notes. Question actually came from something you said. Um, and you said, what do you see when you envision your life now? And so for this next, stage in your life, you said you were feeling a little uncomfortable or a little, you need to you need to grow into a bigger pot. So what do you see for yourself, and what do you envision in your life
Yeah.
in the future? Yeah.
Well, good question. I envision Moms on a Mission Wellness and Simply Passionate Life going into more corporations, doing corporate wellness support groups for moms that are coming back into the workforce. A lot of retention is lost for women who do want to work, because when they realize that the world isn't set up for me to be the mom I want to be and be the boss I want to be. And so I want to help organizations figure that out and support women in that position. Continue to grow my retreat, the Harmony Retreat, and allowing women to have more frequent access to getting that minute. I still get emotional thinking about that, because it took me 5 years to make that a reality, and just giving them that moment of like Pilates and the chef and massages and curriculum by me and a warm hug and somebody mothering them. Like, that is like really what's next, and potentially doing, huh? You said what?
You're a,
A
you are.
mother. Yes, I mother you. Come get that hug, girl. More coaches, more retreats, potentially doing the retreats on the corporate scale. So if you have a church or organization and you don't want to do all the planning, you can license and we do the planning for you, so your women could get away. Especially, I have the passion and the heart for like ministers' wives, because I've been there. But that's, I'm still wrestling with God on that. If the churches want to pay, okay. But really get those women out of that work mode into the safe space to be honest about where they really are. More speaking, maybe a conference here and there. So my kids are growing up, so being very present with them. My daughter's going to college in this fall. Other ones, both of my kids will be in elementary school next year, so I have one going to kindergarten, one going to college. My husband will be 45 this year, so showing up for him and helping him continue to realize his dreams and goals. So it's just that real. It's like real now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's real now, and I see big things, and I want to give God glory the whole way. But I see big things. I'm excited, super excited. I'm finding out. It's also my athletic girl era, so I started taking creatine like a few months ago. Like, I've been just being a little bit more, focus on gains and all that kind of stuff. It's not about weight loss anymore. It's just about lifting. I got my PR 365 on the hip thrust. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still, I'm just getting into my fit girl, my athlete girl era. That's what's next for me.
I love that. I love that. And what does taking the hill mean for you?
Well, taking the hill means being open to redefine yourself at any moment. Open to not holding on to the hill you've already taken. A lot of people have a testimony from way back when. I remember when I got sick in 6th grade, like me. I had malaria in 6th grade. Or I remember when my daughter had a seizure when she was 1. That was 9 years ago. I remember when those are great hills that you have taken. I remember losing, so for me, I lost 75 pounds before having kids. Well, that was 11 years ago. What hill is it that you're called to take now? Where are you trying to go next? If we're talking about elevation, the Appalachian Mountains, there are so many mountains and you go on the way to the top. And so if you get to the top of one hill and you be like, good, we did good. Well, after that hill is a valley for the next hill. So just be willing to keep challenging.
I love it. Oh my God, I love it. Love it. Raise my hand like, yes, Lord, yes. I feel all of this. Yes, I hear you. I hear you. That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So take the hill. Don't be afraid to take the hill. And you're going to hit some valleys along the way too, right? So you took that hill and literally, literally, y'all, this is real time. Literally just did a program in New York gained a little bit, lost a little bit of muscle, lost some of my gains, gained a little bit of, weather weight or whatever, winter weight. And I pushed back through and got back over that hill and working with the
That's
CDC. And it's like different things are happening now.
yeah.
And that could have been seeming like I fell off. That could have felt
Yeah.
like I'm struggling again, or how did I let myself fall off? But that was just a little bit of a valley that's going to the next peak, you know?
I think that like that's one thing that I definitely want to like sow into people is that one of the great things about just having a mentality to take the hill is that the elevation changes.
Mm-hmm.
Elevation changes every time. And so you're not gearing up for the hill because you're never expecting to go down again.
Yeah.
But gearing up for the hill because in order to get to that higher elevation to where this one hill that took you out like 10 years ago, you're never in that mindset again. Like
Yeah.
you're always going up. Your elevation is so much higher. You're so much better prepared. So even though it's a 5 foot hill, but it's a 5 foot hill now, and baby, you're on a mountaintop
Right.
already. It's a whole you're coming from from a whole different place. And so it's like it doesn't happen once, it happens multiple times, but every single time you have to say, I'm gonna gird myself up.
Yep.
I've done it once, I can do it again.
Amen.
Or if I can see someone else do it, if they can do it, I can do it. Each one teach one. That's why we're here to share these lessons. And so that way it's a blessing and a testimony to someone else to give them the courage and the strength to know that like you can take the hill.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Y'all, if you want to connect with Precious K. Williams, you will be able to do that in the show notes. There will be links and more information about her retreats and her coaching, her the things that she's doing next, and a link to some socials as well. So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your hill with us, and we really appreciate you, and we can't wait to see you on the other side.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me.